My stepson said, "You'll clap from the back row, if you even show up." He said it like a man giving orders, not a boy giving notice. I stood there in the kitchen, holding a new tie in school colors, a subtle herringbone pattern with the tiny crest from his private academy stitched in gold at the bottom. I'd bought it 2 days earlier. Thought it would be something he could wear proudly, something elegant to mark the end of childhood. Instead, he looked past it, past me. I nodded. That was all I managed. He didn't even wait for a reply, just grabbed his keys, muttered something about being late to pick up his tux, and left. The tie stayed on the counter, the tag still on. Like everything else I'd tried to hand him lately, rejected before it even landed. 3 days later, I wasn't at the venue. No camera slung over my shoulder. No spare cufflinks in my pocket. No standing in the sun for family photos. I was across town, in a cold office with thick carpets and framed diplomas, signing papers that should have felt heavier. Documents that would cut the cord between me and Chris. Not legally, not yet, but financially, practically, silently. His biological father showed up to the ceremony, of course. Jason, broad-shouldered and loud, wearing sunglasses indoors, late as always. He posed for pictures with a champagne flute in one hand and his other arm slung around Chris like they hadn't missed a decade. The pictures hit social media that night. My wife Joyce tagged me in one. A slip of the finger, maybe, or a test. I didn't react. I just let it sit there. They toasted him like a returning hero. 1 drink. 2 maybe. He paid part of the bill, or so I heard. Just enough to write his name on the night. And then he left. Again. Like always. But what stayed with me wasn't Jason. It was Chris. I started replaying everything. The slow fade. The clipped tones. The way his eyes glazed when I spoke. He used to light up when I came home. Run down the hallway in socks too big for his feet. Skidding into my legs like a puppy. Hey, wanna see my drawing? Now he barely spoke unless prompted. When he did, it was transactional. Short, sharp. It started months before the ceremony. Chris had beg asterisk N pulling away after Jason resurfaced. First, it was just missed dinners. Then missed weekends. Then entire silences where there used to be easy conversation. He wouldn't come to the hardware store with me anymore. Wouldn't help me in the garage. I thought maybe he was busy. School. Friends. Girls. But I noticed the shift. He canceled our yearly fishing trip. That one hit harder than I expected. We'd been doing it since he was 5. He caught his first base with me. Screamed like he'd won the lottery. I still have the photo, him in those oversized sunglasses and that dumb bucket hat, holding the fish like a trophy. This year, I bought the permits, packed the cooler, and waited in the driveway until dusk. He never showed. When I asked about it later, he said, "Oh, yeah, sorry, forgot. 12 years of memories wiped clean with one shrug. Joyce told me not to take it personally. He's a teenager, she said. They pull away. It's normal. But it wasn't normal. Not this. I started finding Jason's name in little places. A message thread left open on Chris's tablet. A Facebook friend request accepted. A new contact on his phone with a profile picture that showed Jason in a leather jacket, sitting on a Harley. And then came the comparisons. Subtle at first. Jason says he used to surf. Jason knows a guy who could get me into a music program. Jason said he might take me to Coachella next year. Each time I nodded, bit my tongue, told myself to be the bigger man. But with each mention, the ground beneath our home cracked a little more. He started calling me by my name. Not Dad. Not even Mike. Just hey or nothing at all. He'd toss his bag on the floor, grab something from the fridge, and disappear upstairs without a word. He missed our anniversary dinner. Not his, ours, Joyce and mine. I'd invited him weeks ahead. Reserved a table at the steakhouse where we used to go before money got tight. I planned it for a Saturday so he wouldn't have school. Even got a new jacket. He never showed. Later, I found a photo online. Him and Jason at a beach bar 2 hours south. Cocktails and sunburns and grins like nothing mattered. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay beside Joyce while she scrolled through her phone in silence. I didn't ask if she'd seen the picture. I knew she had. Her breathing changed when she saw it. Still, she said nothing. That's when I realized something deeper had shifted. It wasn't just Chris who was changing. It was Joyce too. She stopped defending me. She stopped noticing the slights. When Chris dismissed me or corrected me or talked over me, she used to say something. Just a word. Now she looked away. Or worse, she smiled. At dinner, if I asked Chris about his college applications, she'd interrupt. Change the subject. He's got it under control, she'd say, patting his hand like I was a substitute teacher overstepping. I began to feel like a guest in my own house. No, not a guest. A relic. A necessary utility. The man who kept the lights on, the fridge full, the tires rotated. The man who paid the insurance and covered the tuition and replaced the water heater last winter. But not the man they looked to. Not the one who mattered. The week before graduation, Chris came home late. I was sitting on the porch. He passed me without a glance. I said, "Hey, got a minute?" He paused. Sighed. "I need to ask," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "About graduation. Are we doing dinner after? Do you need help organizing anything?" He looked at me like I just offered to plan his funeral. "Actually," he said, "I'd prefer if you didn't come." I blinked. "What?" It's gonna be tight. Only a few seats. I already gave the extras to Jason and his wife. Figured you'd understand." Understand? I paid for the school. Every term. Every late fee. Every damn book. He saw something flicker in my face. "You can still come," he added quickly. "Just maybe not sit with us. You know, back row or something." And then he said it. "You'll clap from the back row. If you even show up." He walked inside. I stayed on the porch. Sat there long after the sun dipped behind the trees. I didn't move. Not even when Joyce came out to ask if I wanted tea. I said no. That night, while they slept, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I reviewed account numbers, passwords, statements. The insurance policy I kept active. The tuition fund I'd built from freelance jobs and weekend work. The car payments. The credit card with his name on it. And then I opened another tab. Searched for a lawyer. Scheduled an appointment. I didn't rage. Didn't throw things. Didn't confront anyone. I just started the process. The process of stepping back. The process of teaching a lesson I should have taught years ago. Because if I was going to be nobody to him, then he'd learn what it meant to live without a nobody like me. When he formally asked me not to come to graduation, I knew we were done. No anger. No fight. Just a quiet certainty that settled into my bones like winter. I had raised that boy for 12 years. Taught him how to ride a bike. Sat through fevers, math meltdowns, breakups, scraped knees, and finals. I covered every late payment when his real father forgot child support. I paid for his private school, drove him to practices, paid for every tutor, bought him a car for his 17th birthday. Not a used one, a new one, straight off the lot. He cried when I gave him the keys. Called me dad in front of his friends. That was the last time he said it. But now I was nobody. He said it with ease, like I was a guest overstaying my welcome, like my love had an expiration date. And I realized it had expired for him long ago. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I reviewed the paperwork. The house was in my name. The deed mine. Every repair, every mortgage check, every repainting of the porch, every call to a plumber. My signature, my sweat. The insurance, my plan, my premiums. Joyce didn't know the passwords to the portal. I stopped offering them years ago when she said, offhandedly, "It's your thing, you handle that stuff." The college fund card? Tied to my business account. Not a single deposit from Jason. Not once. Chris didn't know that. Or didn't care. I sat in my home office the day before graduation, in the same chair I used to help him fill out scholarship essays. His transcripts were still pinned on the wall. I'd put them there like trophies, proud of what we'd built. But they meant nothing now. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. Asked her to review a few documents. Nothing dramatic. Just tightening the bolts. adjusting the flow. Then I logged in and began turning off the valves. I canceled the automatic tuition payments, froze the allowance transfer, removed him as an authorized user from the credit card, blocked refueling charges from the car I was still making payments on. I didn't tell Joyce. Not yet. That night, we had dinner like everything was normal. Roast chicken, her favorite. Chris didn't join us. He was out celebrating early, she said. Didn't look me in the eye when she said it. I ate in silence. She cleared the plates. Later, I found the receipt for the graduation party. It was on the printer tray, half-folded. $3,200. DJ, catering, decorations, venue rental. The deposit had already been paid, from my card. The balance was due the day of. I stared at the number and wondered if he even knew how money worked. If he ever thought about where it came from. Or if, in his mind, it just appeared. The way love was supposed to. That night I didn't sleep. I walked the house like I was already a ghost. Every photo on the wall had me in it. Me holding him on a swing. Me with him in the hospital after a sprained ankle. Me on the sidelines with a folding chair and a camera. But none of it mattered. I had been erased while standing in plain view. The morning of graduation, Joyce was already dressed when I came downstairs. She wore the necklace I gave her on our 10th anniversary. She didn't look at me. He said he'd rather you didn't come, she said before I could speak. I nodded. I didn't tell her I'd already made other plans. I took my coffee and left without a word. Drove across town to a different office, a notary this time. Signed the document that shifted control of the college fund. The clerk asked if I needed a witness. I said no. I was enough. At noon, Joyce texted me a photo of Chris in his gown, Jason at his side. I didn't respond. I didn't even open it fully. At 4:27 p.m., the first call came. I let it ring. At 4:32, another. Then a text from Joyce. We have a problem. I sipped my coffee and waited. At 5:03 p.m., she called again. I answered. There's an issue with the DJ, she said. Her voice was tight. He says he wasn't paid. I canceled the card. I said. What? The card. The one you used to book the DJ. It's closed. You what? There's more, I added. The caterer will ask for full payment before serving. Tell them the man of the hour should handle it. Her silence was a scream. I could hear voices in the background. Confusion. Frustration. Chris, maybe Jason. Maybe both. I imagined Jason reaching for his wallet, fumbling, calculating what he could cover without overdrawing. I imagined Chris watching his golden hero crack. Joyce's voice dropped. Why are you doing this? I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just no one, remember? You're punishing him. No, I'm removing myself. You can't just. I can. I have. Then I hung up. That evening, I sat on the back deck with a drink in hand. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. When the sky went dark, I turned off the porch light and sat in the quiet. Somewhere across town, Jason was figuring out what a real father's job cost. Chris was realizing what applause from the back row really sounded like. Empty space. And Joyce? She was learning that silence, too, has a price. The music cut out halfway through Chris's speech. One moment he was standing at the mic, confident, chest puffed, talking about gratitude, community, how family isn't always blood. And the next, silence. No background track, no applause cues, no sound at all except the confused murmurs of his classmates and the buzz of a dying speaker system. A few claps tried to fill the gap. They didn't. The DJ had packed up. Unpaid balance. No exception. The venue manager refused to extend the rental. 40 minutes past the limit and they wanted their space back. Plates half cleared. Champagne unopened. Balloons deflating into the corner shadows. Jason had vanished 15 minutes earlier. Running to the ATM, he told someone. He didn't return. At 10:17 p.m. my phone rang again. This time I answered. Joyce's voice was trembling. Can you come? No. Chris is upset. The card didn't work. The restaurant. I know. We can't cover the bill. I know. She paused. They're asking for immediate payment. I didn't bring my purse. Chris says you. I don't. I hung up. At 11:03 p.m. The door opened. Chris stepped into the kitchen, dressed in a wrinkled tux jacket, his tie loose around his neck. He looked different. Not grown, smaller. Like the suit didn't quite fit anymore. Like he'd borrowed adulthood and was being asked to return it. He didn't say hello. He didn't take off his shoes. He walked in like it was still his house. Like nothing had changed. You embarrassed us, he said before I could speak. I took a slow breath. You ruined my night. Your night, I repeated. I let the words hang there. Let them echo. You could have told me, he said louder. If you were gonna be petty. I was clear. Bullsh *T. He threw his keys on the counter. They bounced once, then landed near the sink. You think this makes you the bigger man? You think walking away from everything? I didn't walk away, I said. You pushed me. He paced, hands raking through his hair. You don't get to act like the victim here. You abandoned me. No, I said. I stopped pretending I was welcome. You are. I corrected. Until I wasn't. He stopped pacing. Faced me. I needed you. No, you needed my money. His mouth opened, then closed. A flicker of shame crossed his face, but it didn't stay. I didn't ask you to pay for anything, he said. You didn't have to. The silence stretched. He looked at the floor, then back at me. Jason didn't have enough, he said. I nodded. I know. He said he would, but he never does. I thought. Chris's voice faltered. I thought it'd be different this time. I nodded again. He said he'd pay the rest. He told me he had it covered. The DJ, the food, everything. I believed him. I did too, I said. Once. Chris sat down heavily at the kitchen table. The same table where we'd done homework. Where we ate on birthdays. Where he once made a card out of napkins and scotch tape that said, "You're the best. Even if you're not my real dad." He was 12 then. Do you hate me? He asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. What I felt wasn't hate. It was hollow. Exhaustion. Like I'd been pulling a cart uphill for years only to realize the wheels had been locked the whole time. Like I'd confused sacrifice with acceptance. Presence with love. I don't know what to do, he said quietly. I looked at him. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't posturing. He was afraid. Then it's time to learn, I said. He looked up. You wanted to be your own man, I said. You wanted freedom from rules, expectations, my voice in your ear. Well, here it is. Freedom. Full and clean. I didn't mean. But you did, I said. And now we live with that. He looked at me like he didn't recognize the man sitting across from him. You're different, he said. I'm honest. He looked down at his hands. College? Your problem. Rent. Not my name on the lease. Car. Already in default. They'll take it next week. You're serious. I didn't blink. He swallowed hard. What about Mom? I raised an eyebrow. She can't just, you can't make her pick sides. She already did, I said. His jaw clenched. What do you want from me? He snapped. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. You win. It's not about winning, I said. It's about weight. What? The weight of being responsible, I said. The weight of holding a family together. The weight of being told you're nothing, while still paying for everything. He didn't reply. I stood up, walked to the sink, poured out the rest of my coffee. You made your choice, I said. Now live in it. I left him sitting there. The next morning he was gone. No note, no message, just silence. Joyce didn't speak to me for 3 days. Then she tried. He's just a boy, she said. He didn't mean it. He meant enough. You're breaking this family. No, I said. I just stopped patching the cracks. He needs help. Then his father can help him. You were his father. I was, I said, until he decided someone else was more convenient. She didn't argue after that. That night, I made a simple dinner. For one, sat at the table with no pictures, no laughter, no weight. And for the first time in months, I could taste the food. Now I live alone again, and for the first time in years, I feel like I'm finally living for real. There's a strange kind of quiet here now. Not just the absence of footsteps or slammed doors or Joyce calling up the stairs. It's deeper, like the air itself exhales. The walls don't brace for tension anymore. My coffee tastes like coffee again, not like bitterness soaked in fatigue. The mornings are still, and the evenings are mine. I don't listen for the sound of the garage door anymore. I don't keep extra snacks in the cupboard, just in case. I don't count plates when I set the table. There's only one now. One fork. One knife. One man left behind when the illusion shattered. I still see Joyce sometimes. She moved out 2 weeks after Chris disappeared into Jason's apartment across town. It was quiet like everything else. No fight. No tears. Just a folded stack of clothes, an empty closet, and a note that read, "I wish this had gone differently." I didn't reply. She didn't deserve my silence, but she didn't deserve my words either. I pass her occasionally at the grocery store or driving in opposite lanes. Once she parked at the same gas station, 3 pumps over. We locked eyes. She looked away first. It's easier that way. Chris didn't call for a month. I figured he was settling into the fantasy. The life with Jason. The unearned praise, the late-night freedoms, the fast food dinners and no curfews. Maybe he liked hearing how special he was without having to earn it. Maybe he needed to believe blood was enough. But blood doesn't pay tuition. I found out through a neighbor, the father of one of Chris's classmates, that he was dropped from enrollment. No fees paid. No appeal granted. Just a letter and a lock on the student portal. He posted a long story on Instagram that day, full of righteous anger, talking about injustice, systems built to break young people, and how not everyone has a safety net. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I didn't need to, because the truth was simpler than that. He had a safety net. He set it on fire. 2 weeks later, he knocked on my door. No warning. Just the hollow sound of knuckles on wood. Late in the evening, when the sun had already dipped and the porch light hadn't flicked on yet. I opened the door and found him there. Shoulders slouched, hoodie up, eyes swollen. For a second, I thought he was drunk. Then I realized he was just tired. "Hey," he said. His voice was low. Not broken. Not desperate. Just smaller. "Hey," I said. We stood there for a long moment. I didn't invite him in. He didn't ask. I just wanted to say, he began. "I didn't get it. Back then. I thought it didn't matter. The things you did. I thought it was just money." I didn't respond. He looked down at his shoes. "It wasn't. I see that now." Another pause. "I was a dick," he said. That made me chuckle. Just once. A short, sharp exhale. He smiled, barely. "You still mad?" "No," I said. "I'm tired." "I get that." He shoved his hands into his hoodie pocket. "It's not working out with Jason. He's not what I thought." I waited. He tried to get me a job at his buddy's garage. Said it'd be good for me to learn some discipline. Then he stopped coming home on weekends. He's got another kid now. Girlfriend, too. Doesn't like me being around. He looked up at me finally. Eyes searching. "I miss this place. This place misses respect," I said. He winced. "I don't expect anything," he said quickly. "Not money. Not a room. I just wanted to tell you that I know what I did. What I said. It was wrong." I nodded. "I don't know if it changes anything," he added. "But it's true. It changes some things," I said. "Like, you finally said something real." He looked surprised. Like he thought this would be the part where I reached out, pulled him in, told him everything was forgiven. But that's not how real life works. "I'm not your safety net anymore," I said. "I can't be. I'm not asking you to be." Good. Another long silence. I still think about that fishing trip, he said. The one I skipped. You waited all day. I said nothing. I was with Jason, he continued. He took me to this lake. Fancy one. We didn't fish. He just drank and talked about himself. Said I was lucky he even showed up. I let the words settle. I didn't know what I had, he said. No, I said. You didn't. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy now. Guess I came here hoping. I don't know. Just hoping. Hope is good, I said. But it's not credit. He looked at me one more time, nodded again, then turned and walked down the porch steps. Didn't look back. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've heard he's working part-time at a warehouse. Moved into a shared apartment with 2 other guys. Pays rent late. Struggles with bills. Got a parking ticket he couldn't afford. Posted about it online. But he's doing it. On his own. And me? I sleep like a rock. My days are quieter, smaller, but mine. I work. Eat. I read. I no longer wait for respect from people who see me as convenient. I no longer measure my worth by their approval. I gave what I gave. I stood where I stood. I carried that family until my back bent and my hands shook. And when they let go, I didn't fall. I walked away. Sometimes I still ask myself if I did the right thing. Was I too harsh? Did I give up too soon? Did I break a boy when I could have bent a little more? Then I remember the night he looked me in the eye and said, "You're not my real dad." And I remember how his mother stayed quiet. That was the moment the family ended, not when I stopped paying. Not when I walked out, but when they told me, with silence and contempt, that I was expendable. So no, I wasn't cruel. I was consistent. You can only sacrifice for someone so long before it becomes servitude. And love, real love, cannot exist without respect. I was never asking for praise, just recognition. I didn't want to be their father in title. I wanted to be their father in truth, in presence, in worth, in memory. They chose another man, and now they live with him or without him as they chose. So tell me, was I wrong to leave? Was I wrong to draw the line when it became clear they had erased me? Or would you have stayed, clapping from the back row for a child who no longer saw you at all?